And now, turning to our program, please welcome John Emmerich, President and CEO of Discovery World, to introduce today's speaker.
Thank you, President Kent. In my 12-plus months here as a Rotarian, we've had a lot of really amazing speakers. I think everybody in the room could attest to that. And oftentimes, the person doing the intro has the distinct pleasure of reading off accomplishments. I think this one is truly exceptional. Working for Discovery World for almost 2 decades, I have had the honor of partnering with the Milwaukee School of Engineering, really bridging the gap between early hands-on STEM learning and showing students what is possible right here in Milwaukee. The partnership started with Dr. Vietz, carried on by Dr. Walls, and now we are lucky to have it championed by our guest speaker here today. It is my distinct pleasure to introduce the recently inaugurated 6th president of Milwaukee School of Engineering, Dr. Eric Baumgartner. Dr. Baumgartner is a dynamic and forward-looking leader whose career has been defined by innovation, industry engagement, and a deep commitment to student success. He spent 10 years, working at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, California, where he provided significant contributions to the robotic exploration of Mars by rovers known as Spirit, Opportunity, and Curiosity. Throughout his 20-plus year career in higher education, he has built strong partnerships, advanced applied learning, and championed opportunities that prepare students to lead in an increasingly complex and technological world. A few weeks ago, I had the honor of being present for his inauguration ceremony, where we as a community had an opportunity to hear directly from those who know Eric best as they shared their experience about his leadership, abilities, character, energy, and vision. Jennifer Harris-Trosper, JPL Fellow at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, shared, as Eric takes on the presidency of Milwaukee School of Engineering, continuing to forge first and inspire and lead the next generation, you all, students, faculty, and staff, are blessed. I have seen firsthand what Eric can do when the stakes are at the highest and the timeline is the shortest. MSOE is in incredible hands. And Dr. J.D. Yoder, Dean and Professor at Ohio Northern University, said, in times like these, we need exceptional leaders, a hardworking leader who will compete, a positive force who truly cares about employees and students. An entrepreneurial mindset leader who will find new opportunities, try new things, and stay laser focused on creating value for university stakeholders. I congratulate the MSOE Board of Regents for finding such a leader in my friend and colleague, Dr. Eric Baumgartner. Under Dr. Baumgartner's leadership, MSOE is building on its proud tradition as a university that was built by industry for industry, while preparing students to drive innovation and opportunity throughout our region and beyond. Please join me in welcoming the 6th president of Milwaukee School of Engineering, my friend, Dr. Eric Baumgartner.
Thank you, John, for those kind words. My wife and I, this will be our 9th year in Milwaukee, and I just want to say what a beautiful city this is. We've lived in big cities like Los Angeles and small towns in rural Northwest Ohio, but we've fallen in love with Milwaukee. It's such a great city. My wife's here with me today. She called it the Goldilocks city, right? Not too big, not too small, just right. So we just, and I'm very thankful to be here, a member of the Rotary Club. You guys do incredible work, and I'm just looking forward to contributing to that effort. I just want to reflect on John Bauer's reflection and the importance of higher education and the way in which we do try our best to transform students and create meaningful careers for them. I'll have to admit, yes, I am an engineer and all that goes along with that. I'm a roboticist. I consider myself a roboticist. That's my research background. That's what I did at JPL. But as opposed to solving that problem, my wife is still looking for Rosie, the robot from the Jetsons. I haven't built one. It's really hard to build one of those. We can talk about that one day. But it's just a pleasure to be here. And I recognize that MSOE and the Rotary Club of Milwaukee have had a long-standing relationship over the many years. And at least 4 out of the last 5 presidents, myself now the 5th out of the last 6 presidents, have served as Rotarians. And we go back to Carl Werwath, Bob Spitzer, Herman Vietz, and John Walsh. And one of your longest standing members, Eckhart Grohman, who's with us today, was first introduced to MSOE here at the Milwaukee Club of the Rotary Club of Milwaukee by our MSOE second president, Carl Werwath. And so it was through that introduction that a nearly 50-plus relationship between MSOE and Eckhart Grohman has transpired, and we are eternally grateful to him for all that he's done to help build our institution. And as I said, I'm just so pleased to carry forward the tradition of being a Rotarian here as the president of MSOE. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the past, where we've come from, where we are today, and where we're going into the future. And as John said, we were built by industry for industry. So MSOE was founded by a German immigrant, Oscar Werwath, who came to Milwaukee in the early 1900s and looked around and recognized the need to produce talented engineers and technicians to support local industry. He was a graduate of the European technical schools and really the first person to plan an American educational institution based on an applications-oriented curriculum. That's one where we teach not only the theory, but how that theory is applied, how it comes into practice. If you look back at that time, 1903 was also the year of the founding of Allen Bradley and Harley-Davidson. And so in a few short years, both MSOE, Harley-Davidson, and now Rockwell Automation, formerly Allen Bradley, will be celebrating our 125th year anniversary in 2028. So we'll look to come together to celebrate that milestone. And Oscar first started programs to serve electrical engineers, to build and develop and graduate electrical engineers to support those industries, including Lewis Allis Company and Allen Bradley. And we look where we are today. We look at MSOE as serving many disciplines, mostly all professionally focused. When Oscar was starting the program, he focused on electricity and mechanical power. Today, we bridge across all engineering disciplines, and then also include business professionals and nursing professionals and others. And today, as we'll talk about, we bring a focus of artificial and machine learning into our curriculum as well. So this applications-oriented experiential approach to education that Oscar Werwath started for us nearly 125 years ago is still alive and well today and continues, it really drives the way we educate. So I got a short little video to kind of give you a little touch and sense of that, how we educate students and how we support them through that journey.
All right, Shepard's presentation is next.
Smooth it out. Come on, come on, come on.
Here we go. Good luck, guys.
Select red.
So close, only 30 miles short.
Start CPR.
Answers to the hardest problems aren't hiding out in the world.
All right, we did it.
They're right inside us. If you're willing to dig deeper, think bigger, be greater than you ever imagined, then impossible is just the start.
So we challenge our students. That's what the video is trying to get across to you. But we do so in a very supportive, meaningful way in which all students are supported by our great faculty and staff. And the outcomes of their education are really tremendous. This gives you a little sense of that. We have a graduate outcomes rate, formerly known as the placement rate. Our students have jobs after graduation, go off to grad school, serve in the military. 96 to 99% of them are doing that post-graduation. The one under the Wall Street Journal, been ranking in the last couple of years highest salaries in America. We ended up 17th ranked in the nation for highest salaries. Highest return on investment of any university in Wisconsin by pay scale. And you saw our hockey team was highlighted in the video. About 25% of our students, undergrad students, are student athletes. And we're a Division III school, so they're not doing it for NIL contracts. They're not doing it for scholarships. They're doing it for the love of the sport. And so they work hard on the soccer pitch, on the hockey, on the ice, and also in the classroom. And they do fantastic as one of our students in one of our 28 athletic teams. And then most recently, through an employee survey tool, we have a great culture on campus. And we were recently recognized both by the Princeton Review for one of the top places to work in higher education, USA Today, and locally here by the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel as the best place to work in 2026. We're very proud of that. So that supportive culture is true at MSOE, and it supports our students on a daily basis. We can't turn the page today without talking about AI. We'll talk a little bit about AI, and I want to tell you a little bit about MSOE's journey in AI. And I'm going to go back a few years, back to 2015, 2016, 2017. Really, if you go back 10 plus years, AI, machine learning has been around for a long time. I did a little bit of that work a long time ago, but it's been around, the technology and the tools, the technology's been around since the 1950s, the theory. It was really through a little company known as NVIDIA, where we got the hardware and the software tools to build the types of models that were only possible with very large data sets. And MSOE has an incredibly gifted and talented, as well as supportive alumnus at NVIDIA. His name is Dwight Derricks, and he's currently the Senior Vice President of Software Engineering at NVIDIA and a 1990 alum of MSOE. Back in 2015, 2016, he actually approached Dr. Walls, previous president, and said, this technology that's been living in the graduate world, the research world, is really ready to come into the undergraduate education environment in such a way that it can create future engineers and computer scientists who can bring this technology to their disciplines. And so he told us back then that the time was right to start an undergraduate program at MSOE with a sole technical focus on AI machine learning. This is 10 years ago, okay? He was really predicting what we're seeing today with the use of generative AI tools, large language models, and the like. And he and his wife, Diane, then invested in MSOE in what became known as the Dwight and Diane Derricks Computational Science Hall, which opened up in the fall of 2019. And really the hallmark of that building is a piece of hardware that's really close to Dwight's heart, which is Rosie, a different Rosie, not the robot that I was supposed to build. This is a NVIDIA powered supercomputer on the campus of MSOE. And this is the hub of the building. The building really surrounds this computer. And I've come to realize through our partnership with NVIDIA and Dwight that we are very, very lucky. We're very fortunate. And I've talked to other higher education folks, presidents and provosts. They don't have a Rosie because NVIDIA is not selling to universities. They're selling to the large data centers right now. And so we're very fortunate. And this is available to our students. It's available on day one as they arrive as freshmen, available to our faculty. And we also work with a lot of corporate partners who have access to Rosie as well. So this is a tool that our students get to use to build incredible models. And then Dwight had the notion of creating a bit of a challenge. It's called the Rosie Supercomputer Super Challenge, which began in 2022, where then he said to the students, come with your most challenging, complex problems. Use Rosie to solve those problems, then we'll have a little competition in the springtime, and we'll hand out some prizes and some NVIDIA GPUs and the like. And that's grown over the last 5 years. We just had the 5th anniversary Rosie Supercomputer Super Challenge this past April, and incredible projects are on display by our students, the work that they can do. And I just wanted to highlight just 2 of them that were from our 2026 challenge. One was partnering with the city of Milwaukee and their urban forestry division. We had a group of students that wanted to do something good for the world, and so they actually approached the mayor, and the mayor said, hey, go talk to our innovation unit, and they pointed them to the forestry division. They were able to build a model for the forestry division. So if you know, the forestry division now just has a regular schedule that it goes out and prunes trees across the city, hundreds of thousands of trees. But they just do it on a regular schedule. Whether those trees need it or not, they just go out grid by grid, across the city. The students thought, well, what could we do with data science and machine learning that could help them do their jobs more effectively and efficiently? So they built using satellite data. They used maps of the city to identify trees. They used a machine learning model to be able to identify trees. And from that data that they collect from the satellites, understand the health of the tree. How old was it? Did they have any branches ready to come off? And then they built a tool for the city of Milwaukee, the forestry division, to go out now in a much more efficient and effective way to prune the trees that really needed it and not the ones that didn't. So actually, we're working with the city to bring that tool to fruition. And then there was a group of 3 actually international students from Africa who came together to look at medical deserts, healthcare deserts in Africa. Again, they use satellite data to find buildings in Africa, and they use buildings as a proxy for population. And they're able to build a continent-wide map of Africa around building density, proxy for population, and look for distances between those population densities and healthcare centers in Africa. And so they're able to then build a tool that could let folks in Africa understand how to deploy resources to best serve the population. Really, really incredible work, all of which would not be possible without Rosie, our supercomputer, because those models would take months, if not years, to compute on if it was just using a normal laptop. Once we got our undergraduate computer science program up and running, our corporate partners, in particular, companies like Direct Supply and Milwaukee Tool came to us. It's like, that's great for the undergrads, but we've had folks who graduated a few years back. What can you do for them in terms of upskilling them into the world of machine learning and AI? So we kicked off in 2023 programs for our postgraduate programs in machine learning and AI. We also opened our Center for Professional Education, now not only in terms of delivering academic credit-bearing programs, but we now offer short courses and workshops. And we've recently built a number of programs that help folks understand how to bring AI and machine learning into your business operation, whether it's in HR, marketing, or the like. I can't leave today without talking to you about the MSOE AI Club. It has now become the largest club on campus, and that would only happen at a place like MSOE, right? The largest student club is the MSOE AI Club. When it first got started, it was really a club just for the computer science students to get together, read the latest research, work on really challenging problems. And it was a couple years ago, a student who was the president at the time named Ben Paulson said, well, everybody needs to know this, not just the computer science students. So he had a mission to broaden the participation in the club. And he brought everybody in. It didn't matter what year you were, what discipline, what major you were studying, nursing, business, engineering, computer science, you could be a part of the MSOE AI Club. And you have juniors and seniors mentoring first and second year students in how to use Rosie, how to read the latest research, how to understand the technology, and how to start to build AI models that really do good in the world. And so it was through Ben's efforts that MSOE AI Club became the largest student club on campus, and the vast majority of the projects now that are showing up at the Rosie Supercomputer Super Challenge are from students in that group. And it's just great to see it represent so many disciplines on campus. Last year we decided, okay, why keep this all to ourselves? Let's start to share this across the region and beyond. And so we kicked off what we called AI Week. That happened, the first time inaugural AI Week was in 2025. And then we had our second annual AI Week this past April. And we were very fortunate to be sponsored, that principal sponsor being Northwestern Mutual's Data Science Institute, which we recently have joined forces with. And that's actually where we placed the inauguration. The inauguration was on Friday of AI Week, which sort of seemed fitting to do the MSOE's, my inauguration during AI Week. Last thing I want to just talk about that A squared I squared, or A2I2. I'm not sure which one we're going to call it yet. But this is the Applied Artificial Intelligence Integration Project. And it really came out of a group of faculty who came together to decide how we should bring AI into the curriculum. It's a funny time in higher education right now in the world of AI, right? Information is ubiquitous. You just open ChatGPT or any of your generative AI, large language models tools, and you can ask it for answers, right? Ask questions and hopefully get some right answers. So it's a funny time to be educating the young people, especially in undergrads, on how to use the tool appropriately so that they get a full understanding and understand the foundations of it, as well as how to apply it in their programs. And so we've launched this A2I2 program. We've gone to all of our disciplines on campus, and we're in the process of coming out over the next few years, looking at program after program, discipline over discipline. How is AI influencing your discipline? What should our students understand and know once they graduate from MSOE? We built it's around a framework that includes 4 pillars. 1, gaining a fundamental understanding of the algorithms, the technology of the tool, understanding it at its core. 2, how is it applied to your discipline? Whether you're a nurse or a mechanical engineer or electrical engineer, how is it applied to your discipline? 3, how do I assess the results? Because we hear a lot about AI sometimes can give you bad results, right? Depending on how you build the models, how it's trained. And then 3, what's the ethical implications of what you're doing using AI and machine learning? So we have courses and programs that are adopting that framework, and we're well on our way in building that in all of our disciplines. Again, you can't spend one day on this earth without somebody saying AI to you, right? And so, but there's a lot of talk, right? There's a lot of hype. There's still a lot of, it's pretty noisy out there. But I can tell you, when we've gone out and talked to folks about our A2I2 program, this initiative to weave it into all of our academic programs, MSOE still stands at the forefront of applied AI education. There are many universities which have big headlines, hundreds of millions of dollars of donations, but what's happening at MSOE is truly unique. While many, again, while many are talking about AI, MSOE is actually doing it. And it's our hope that then we will be able to graduate. We are graduating students who are really AI native in a time when it's really, really needed. Our next big initiative then, of course, is to bring this, as I said, to all the engineering disciplines. And so if you've been by our campus recently, you'll see this building being constructed. It's the Robert D. Kern Engineering Innovation Center. This is a 97,000 square foot facility that's currently under construction and is to be scheduled to open in the fall of 2027. We have many folks who have contributed to this effort and help us make this successful. This will be a home for nearly all of our engineering programs at MSOE, connecting our existing engineering science complex to this new facility. And a central part of this theme behind this building is to bring AI into the engineering disciplines. Right now, in many respects, AI sits in that Dwight Dyer-Derrick's Computational Science Hall. We're going to pull it into the Engineering Innovation Center as it becomes opened up. We have a Center for Applied AI Education and Research in this building, and that'll support the goals of this A2I2 program that I talked about. The building is designed really to help welcome students, our first-year engineering students, to campus. That first floor is going to be a place where all will be welcome. And have a great sense of belonging. As they move up into the upper floors, we'll cover mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, civil and architectural engineering, so they kind of move up into their disciplines, and then they'll move into the older parts of the building and get all of that applied application-focused education that comes through our labs and other spaces in that building. So really looking forward to that coming to fruition and opening up in the fall of 2027. All right, so that's a little bit of where we are today and how we've gotten to today. But as John pointed out, I got inaugurated a few months ago. I've been serving as the president since January 1st. And MSOE certainly sits in a unique position of strength within a higher education landscape that's a bit challenged these days. And MSOE, of course, is not immune to these challenges, even though we sit in this position of strength. And so as such, I laid out 5 areas I wanted to focus on during my presidency, and I just have them listed here. Impact the industry we serve, embrace students as working learners, leverage partnerships that strengthen us, fully engage all university stakeholders, and then build the resources necessary to support transformative ideas. And so I'm going to just focus on 2 that I thought would be relevant to the audience here. John's already spoken about the partnerships that we have with the Discovery World and others, and I want to just focus on that one as well as the first one, impact the industries you serve. So I said at the beginning and said in the introduction, I mean, MSOE was really founded as an institution that was really founded by industry for industry. And we need to keep that top of mind as we continue to go forward. Industries engage with us in many, many different ways. And sometimes it's hard for industries to figure out higher education institutions. We can be a little complex, a little bit difficult to understand. We can be difficult to navigate. And so we work with, as many institutions do, we work with industries sort of through natural ways. One, access to talent, right? They want to be able to hire our students, our graduates. And so we have career fairs, right? We have a fall and spring career fair, always sold out, always a waiting list, people waiting to get access to our students. Hiring them for full-time employment, internships, and cooperative education. They can partner with us through partnering with us on the curriculum and the programs. Design challenges, that's the lower picture there is with Milwaukee Tool, a design challenge they brought to campus. Guest speakers, hackathons, industry tours. They can help us improve our programs, continuous improvement through industrial advisory boards. They can provide sponsorship of capstone projects, undergrad research, and working with students and faculty. I wanted to just point out the picture of the two students in blue sitting up at the top right there. Those were student interns at Husco here in Milwaukee and Waukesha. Husco was kind of scratching their head and wondering how they were going to bring AI into their business operations. And so they put out an ad or went out to recruit 3 AI interns that worked for them last summer. And when I was talking to the folks at the Vice President of Business Operations at Husco, they said, you know, they hired 3 students, 2 of which happened to be MSOE students. And these students were actually hired because they had actually built AI models, machine learning models. Where many of the other students were just talking about it, they actually had done it. And so they came into Husco and for them, built out ways in which they could bring AI into their business operations. That's what they did last summer. And the student on the left, actually I just learned a few weeks ago, is now Husco's very first AI engineer, right? So they didn't, you know, this is a way for some companies to think about how to integrate AI into their business practices. Sometimes you got to do it through the youth, right? They can bring knowledge and understanding that us old folks might have a little challenge getting our arms around. So again, these are the ways in which we work with industry. But as I said, industry sometimes can be difficult places to navigate. A lot of times people don't know who to call, where to start. And so we've been working on that in terms of providing a much more streamlined front door access to MSOE. And leading that charge is someone who's very familiar to you. It's Saj Thatchencarry, who's taken on a little bit of an extra role, responsibility at MSOE, to really be that individual, that front door to the institution, to be someone that you can work with directly, gain access to all of those things I just talked about, whether it's capstone, internships, et cetera, as opposed to trying to figure it out yourselves. We'll help you. We'll help you gain access to the front door and be able to facilitate those relationships. Next is leveraging partnerships. Again, John mentioned our really strong partnership that MSOE has had with the Discovery World through our STEM Outreach Center, the We Energy STEM Center at MSOE. And I know during my inauguration, I said, MSOE, again, we have these strengths, but we cannot be all things to all people. We must drive opportunity through collaboration with others. And these are a few examples. Again, I mentioned Discovery World. We were very fortunate to be joined up with others as part of the Northwestern Mutual Data Science Institute. We're doing a joint academic program with the Medical College of Wisconsin around access to the health professions. We work within a group called HERA, the Higher Education Regional Alliance, where we can pool the talents of all of our higher education institutions here in Milwaukee and the region to do things together better than we might do them apart. We work with Project Lead the Way down out of Indianapolis, which is a high school pre-engineering program, a premier engineering program, pre-engineering program. And so, and we're looking for more, right? And again, through Saj's efforts to help us with industry, with partnerships like these on this page, we seek out opportunities to take the talents of our students, our faculty, our staff, and bring them out to the community. And because again, I think we can always be better together than trying to do it by ourselves. So we will continue to seek out those meaningful corporate and community partnerships so that we might drive opportunity together. Because I think together we can do better together than trying to do things alone. Because there's great power in this room, there's great power amongst all of the higher education institutions in the Milwaukee and the region. We all have our unique strengths, and we all have our unique weaknesses as well. And so how can we work together to leverage those strengths and try to really leverage those strengths to serve our students and our graduates, and for us, for MSOE, our industry partners, in the best way possible. So part of I have an ask here today, and really to ask how might you help? How might we partner together? How might we engage the Milwaukee community so that we can grow our connections and truly be better together? You're welcome to reach out to myself via the email, Saj, you all know Saj as well, and he's more than happy to help you get connected as well. So I'll end there. Thank you for the opportunity to come and spend some time with you. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baumgartner. As you guys know, if you have questions, please line up here. Please keep it to 30 seconds or less and keep it concise and clear.
Hi, Dr. Baumgartner. Thank you so much for joining us and for the lovely presentation. I say this as a lover of AI who's on ChatGPT all day long, crafting emails and finding recipes that my children will actually eat, but you've discussed the progress of AI. Are you concerned about the speed of AI's progress recently, and what negative implications have you seen or anticipate?
Yeah, so we can talk about data centers, right? Our utilization of AI is driven by the computational resources that are necessary to answer your ChatGPT questions, right? Every time you put a question in, that question goes off to a large language model somewhere, it gets chewed on for a little bit and spits you back an answer, right? And that answer is coming from a data center somewhere in the nation or the world, right? And so there's great concern about the power necessary to drive those data centers, and more recently, the water utilization, because these GPUs now are water cooled. They're pumping water in, recycling and recirculating the water, but nonetheless, it does take water. So there's certainly an environmental impact that's happening there. But in some respects, the genie's out of the bottle, right? It's hard to think about going back and not using these tools anymore. They've become so ubiquitous, and now in many respects becoming part of not just our everyday life, but in businesses, the way businesses are running today. And so we have to solve that problem in an environmentally friendly way so that we can continue to have here in the United States, a great electrical transmission resource, as well as our Great Lakes and our water resources. And it's appropriate for the communities and people to say, hey, we got to think about this, right? Let's not leverage our future for the work that we have going on today. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Hi, thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
I was at a commencement at MSOE maybe 20 years ago, and I was really struck by the stage. You have a rotating stage for the commencement. Do you still use it, and do you know anything about the genesis of that?
So I think my very first commencement here was on the rotating stage, and then the COVID happened, right? We moved away from the rotating stage, and we just had, because there was a year we did like 10 commencements to break down the commencement sizes smaller and smaller so we could have, distancing, social distancing and things like that. So we've not brought it back since maybe 2017, 2018. It was unique. I heard it broke down once in the middle of a commencement. People were climbing underneath it to try to get it running again. It was really weird to be on it because it just, your sense of the people were just changing all around. That was the notion. It's like, how can I get more people involved in commencement? So we did change it. We don't have the rotating stage anymore, I'm sorry to say.
Hi, I'm Steve Chevalier. There's been a lot of talk about AI being used in warfare. I'm curious about what you think the role of government should be in avoiding that issue in the future.
Yeah, so I think the government, this is not an area of expertise for me, but I think, regulation is not following quickly enough, right? I think there's times, and if you look back in history, this certainly happened with the advent of the internet. It took a little while for the government to kind of catch up to the technology and get appropriate regulations in place around, we think about cybersecurity, we think about protecting our identities today in the world of the internet, and I think even more importantly in the world of AI. So, there's discussions here in the state of Wisconsin that I've been part of. There's obviously discussions at the federal level. But eventually, regulation has to catch back up and has to put some guardrails around the ways we utilize the technology, whether it's in the warfighting domain or in our personal lives. Because, and you've seen some of the biggest AI companies come out and even start to say, hey, folks, we need to slow down a bit and work with government to put some regulations in place. So it's messy right now, I understand that. There is some corporate governance and corporate responsibility here in lieu of government regulations, but the government will eventually have to come around and set those regulations in place to create those guardrails. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Tom Gale. A few years ago, I toured the building that Rosie is in, and they talked about the excess heat that she was going to generate. Have your student engineers figured out a way to repurpose that heat?
We have not. The building was, as I said, was really built and designed around Rosie. It is not water cooled. It's cooled through heat conduction. We air cool it, right? So yes, we just shunt the heat right now. Rosie sometimes it's busy. It's cyclical, right? When before the Rosie competition, it's really humming, so it's producing more heat. But we don't regenerate that heat for any other purpose. Yeah.
Excuse me, thank you. My name is Fred. 44 years ago last week, I got my engineering degree. And I went to an industry that clearly did not have excess computing power into an environment where there was not enough computing power. So now the question is, people believe that AI is a solution looking for a problem. Do we have too much computing power? And not only how does that affect your graduates and people who don't have an engineering degree, but how does it affect teaching to students who have more resources at their fingertips and don't have to search out a problem or search out a solution to a problem? The computer does it for them.
Yeah, so I'll admit we, like many other higher institutions, are struggling with that issue. But I think there's some hope and somewhat self-regulated by the students. During our most recent AI week, we had a panel session with the students and myself and another faculty member sat on the panel. And they talked about the need to develop that foundational skills in their discipline, the foundation in engineering, the foundation in math and science skills necessary to become an engineer, and that they really had to guard themselves against using the tool in ways that were inappropriate early in their education, but then start to bring it in later in their education when they had the maturity to understand how the tool can be most useful for designing a better product or completing their capstone project. So we're in the midst of that as well. Not only that A2I2 is not only about AI integration, but it's also about AI in the world of teaching and education at this moment in time. It's also very messy right now. You hear about professors going back to the old blue book, right? Write out your answers in writing, in class, in front of people, right? And so those things, it's funny, you know, what goes around comes around at times. And so we're going to find our way, but it is a tool that can accelerate learning, right? Done in the appropriate way. And I still think we're trying to figure that out. We're not there yet in terms of what's the most appropriate way to accelerate learning in this time.
Hello, I was very curious about the Innovation Center. So my question is, how do you design an Innovation Center that's flexible enough to support AI when the field is evolving? And then to kind of back end Tom's question, are you considering AI or any energy saving opportunities with that design?
Yeah, thank you. So these buildings, you look around any higher education institution, the buildings stand for long periods of time, right? And so we expect this building to be active 50, 60 years from now. And so working with our architectural team, we look to build the facilities in such a way that is as flexible as possible. Nothing is bolted down to the ground anymore. Everything can be moved. Anything can be shifted around. So we are working with a student group around building what's called a digital twin of the Engineering Innovation Center. So we'll have not only physical model, but a model of the building itself, its environment, its HVAC, its lighting, and then we're going to bring in sensor data so we can actually do a better job, more efficient job of running the facility by simulating its performance through what's called a digital twin. We're doing this started as a student group, started with our architects. They're coming together. I actually got an email from the students this morning how this is coming together. It's going to be a fantastic tool for not only helping us run the building efficiently, but also educating our students in how this can be utilized to best design buildings of the future. Thanks.
Yes, could you, do you happen to know the numbers of how ahead China is of us with engineers as far as AI in comparison to America?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, China is, in terms of numbers, both students graduating with AI, deployment of robotic systems in China, they dwarf the United States, absolutely dwarf the United States. Now, what happens as a result of that is yet to be seen. I think the United States still holds a distinct advantage when it comes to creativity and innovation, right? China hasn't caught up. But if you look at just the number of research papers that are coming out, China is by far putting out the most research papers around AI. So I don't know what that means for us just yet, but it's a fact. We know that it's a fact. More on the robotics side, I know that they are deploying many more robots that are being deployed here in the United States for automation, for manufacturing, et cetera. So we still, I think, sit in a very advantageous position as a country, as an economy, but it's something I know people are concerned about. There are restrictions on the types of chips and GPUs that could be sent over to China. That's somewhat of our response to that fact, but it is a fact that they are, the number, just from a numbers perspective, they're dwarfing the United States in terms of AI graduates.
I have one final question for you. Can you speak to how the students are partnering with nonprofits in the city, like the domes, to come up with solutions for them?
Yeah, we have a number of different ways in which our students get to work with our community partners. We have a very vibrant honors program run by a guy named Dr. Michael Carrier, who through that honors program, which starts in their freshman year, seeks out opportunities to help use the students, help find ways in which to assist our community partners. So that's a way they do projects throughout the year. We have something called the Create Institute, which is our Center for Teaching and Learning, but also a place where we do a lot of experiential education. And so those also pick up projects from both industry and community partners. I mentioned the We Energy STEM Center. We work very closely with John and Discovery World, but also MPS as well. There's a great program there where it's called the First Ambassadors Program. So you may have heard of the First Robotics Program in high schools. In middle schools, sometimes schools may not have the internal expertise to kick off a team, and so we will send our students out to help schools get started with the first robotics team at their school. We also host a community team on our campus, so if you don't have enough people at your own school to build a first robotics team, we have a community team, so come to the We Energy STEM Center and you can build a robotics team with colleagues from a number of different schools. So again, Saj would be your guy to talk to get connected not only to our industry partnership, but our community partnerships as well. So
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.